Welcome to another episode. Today, we're diving into a common misconception that canned food lasts indefinitely. You've probably heard the myth, right? That trusty can of beans or corn sitting in your pantry is good to go forever. Well, we're here to set the record straight. Canned food, while incredibly long-lasting, doesn't have an infinite shelf life. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially for those of us who rely on canned goods for our long-term food storage plans. Now, don't get me wrong, canned food is a marvel of modern food preservation. It's durable, convenient, and can last a heck of a lot longer than fresh food. But indefinitely? That's stretching the truth a bit. So, let's get down to brass tacks. How long is it safe to consume canned goods? That's the million-dollar question, and the answer, like many things in life, isn't black and white. It depends on what's in the can, how it's stored, the integrity of the can itself, and a host of other factors. But don't worry, we're not going to leave you hanging with a vague "it depends" and call it a day. Today, we'll explore the fascinating world of canned food, delve into the science behind its preservation, and learn how to accurately determine the shelf life of different canned goods. We'll discuss high-acid foods like tomatoes and pineapples, which have a shorter shelf life compared to low-acid foods like meats and vegetables. We'll talk about the impact of storage conditions, the importance of the can's integrity, and how to read those tricky labels and dates. By the end of this video, you'll be well equipped with the knowledge you need to make informed decisions about your canned food storage. You'll know what's safe, what's not, and how to maximize the shelf life of your canned goods. So, are you ready to debunk some myths and learn the truth about canned food? Great. Let's unravel the mystery behind the canned food's shelf life. To understand the shelf life first, we need to know what canning is and how it preserves food. Canning is a method of preserving food by processing it and sealing it in an airtight container. This process involves placing food in a can and heating it to kill microorganisms that cause food to spoil. Once the can is sealed and cooled, a vacuum is created that helps to preserve the food inside. Now, there are two main types of canned goods: high-acid and low-acid foods. High-acid foods include fruits, pickles, and tomato products. These foods have a natural acidity that makes it difficult for bacteria to survive, and they can be processed at temperatures that can be achieved with boiling water. On the other hand, low-acid foods like meats, poultry, seafood, and most vegetables need to be processed at higher temperatures, typically achieved through pressure canning to destroy bacteria spores. The canning process effectively extends the shelf life of food, often for several years, but it's important to remember that the food doesn't remain in a suspended animation. Over time, even under perfect conditions, the food inside the can will start to degrade. The taste, texture, color, and nutritional value may change, but it doesn't necessarily mean the food is unsafe to eat. That being said, the preservation doesn't just depend on the canning process itself. Storage conditions play a key role too. Factors like temperature, humidity, and light can affect the longevity and safety of canned food. For example, canned goods stored in a cool, dark place will last longer than those kept in a hot, humid environment. The integrity of the can itself also matters. Dents, rust, and swelling can compromise the seal and allow bacteria to enter. So, canning is indeed a marvel of modern food science that allows us to enjoy a variety of foods year-round and stock up for emergencies. But, like all good things, canned food doesn't last forever. Knowing what goes into the canning process and how different factors affect the shelf life of your canned goods is key to ensuring you always have a safe and nutritious meal at hand. So what are these storage conditions that impact the longevity and safety of canned food? Well, storage conditions are a crucial factor in determining how long your canned goods will last. Let's start with temperature. Ideally, canned goods should be stored at a constant temperature between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Dramatic fluctuations in temperature can lead to the degradation of the food inside the can. Next up, we have humidity. High humidity can cause cans to rust over time, which can lead to leakage and spoilage. Thus, it's best to store canned goods in a dry place. Light is another factor to consider. Direct sunlight can increase the temperature of the cans and degrade the quality of the food. It's best to store your canned goods in a dark place to keep them at a stable temperature. Now let's talk about the can itself. The integrity of the can is just as important as the conditions in which it's stored. Dents, rust, and swelling are all signs of potential problems. Dents can compromise the seal of the can or create tiny holes, allowing bacteria to enter. Rust, similar to dents, can weaken the can and allow air and bacteria to get in. Swelling, on the other hand, is a clear sign of bacterial growth and gas production inside the can, which means the food is definitely unsafe to eat. It's also worth noting that cans with pull-top lids are more prone to leakage compared to those that require a can opener. So if you're planning for long-term storage, you might want to consider this. In essence, the key to maximizing the shelf life of your canned goods is proper storage. Keep your canned goods in a cool, dry, and dark place, and always check the condition of the cans before storing them. And remember, even the best storage conditions can't make food last indefinitely. Remember, a compromised can equals compromised food. So always be mindful of these factors to ensure that your stockpile stays safe and nutritious for as long as possible. Ever wondered what those expiration, best by, and use by dates really mean? Let's dive into it. On canned goods, you'll often see dates stamped somewhere on the label. These dates are generally about quality, not safety. Here's the rundown. The best by, or best if used by date, indicates when the product will be of best flavor or quality. It's not a purchase or safety date. So if you're past this date, don't panic. The food isn't necessarily bad, but it might not taste as good. Next, the sell-by date tells the store how long to display the product for sale. This is more for inventory management and not a safety date for consumers. Then we have the use-by date. This is the last date recommended for the use of the product while at peak quality. The manufacturer of the product determines this date. Lastly, the expiration date is the date after which the product is not guaranteed to be at its peak quality. This doesn't mean it's unsafe to eat, but it might not be at its best. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. Canned goods can remain edible beyond these dates if they've been stored properly. However, if a can is dented, rusting, bulging, or leaking, it's a no-go regardless of the date. These are signs that the integrity of the can has been compromised, and harmful bacteria could be present. Also keep in mind that these dates assume the food has been stored under ideal conditions. That's a cool, dark place with a stable temperature, ideally around 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. If your canned goods are stored in a hot garage or a damp basement, their shelf life could be significantly shortened. So, a past date doesn't necessarily mean bad food, but it's crucial to know what you're dealing with. And remember, when in doubt, it's better to be safe than sorry. Don't risk your health for the sake of a can of beans. Now let's get specific. How long do different canned foods last? The shelf life of canned goods can vary quite a bit depending on the type of food and how it's stored. Starting with canned beans, we have varieties like black beans, kidney beans, and chickpeas. These can last for up to a whopping 10 years. That's a full decade of potential meals waiting right there on your shelf. Next up, canned meats. Products like canned chicken, tuna, salmon, and even Spam are protein-rich and can retain quality for about 6 years under the right conditions. That's a lot of muscle-building power stored in a small can. Moving on to canned vegetables. Staples like corn, peas, carrots, and green beans are great for adding to meals and can last for 10+ years. That's over a decade of essential vitamins and minerals ready to be served. Now, let's talk about canned fruits. Fruits such as peaches, pears, and pineapples can be stored for 10 years. If you're looking for healthier options, opt for those canned in juice rather than syrup. Then we have canned soups and stews. These are hearty options that are ready to eat and can be kept for long-term storage up to 8 years. That's almost a decade of comforting, ready-made meals. Let's not forget canned coconut milk. Useful in a variety of dishes, from curries to desserts, and has a relatively long shelf life of up to 15 years. That's a decade and a half of culinary adventures. Next, we have condensed milk. Often used in desserts and coffee, it can last for 10+ years due to the sugar content which acts as a preservative. That's a sweet deal, right? Finally, canned tomato products. This includes whole tomatoes, tomato paste, and tomato sauce. These are highly acidic and will last 5 to 6 years. That's half a decade of pasta sauces, stews, and more. However, remember that these are general guidelines. Some canned goods may not last as long as expected due to factors like storage conditions and the integrity of the can itself. For example, a can of beans stored in a hot, humid environment might not make it to the 10-year mark. On the flip side, a can of coconut milk kept in a cool, dry place might well outlast its 15-year expectation. Knowing the expected shelf life can help you make the best choices for your pantry. Remember, it's not just about stocking up. It's about being smart with your resources. So the next time you're at the grocery store, think about what you're putting in your cart and how long it will last. The future of your food supply might just depend on it. What should you do if you find an old can in the back of your pantry? Well, let's dive into some safety tips for consuming older canned goods. Firstly, it's crucial to inspect the can itself. Look for any signs of damage such as dents, rust, or swelling. If you notice anything unusual, it's best to err on the side of caution and discard the can. Damage to the can could potentially lead to the growth of harmful bacteria inside. Next, check for any signs of spoilage. If you open a can and notice an off smell, strange color, or if the food inside is bubbling when it shouldn't be, these are clear indicators that the food has spoiled. Even if the can looks fine on the outside, any of these signs mean you should dispose of the contents immediately. But let's say the can is in good condition and there are no obvious signs of spoilage. Should you go ahead and eat the food? Not so fast. It's important to remember that some bacteria, like botulism, don't always change the smell or appearance of the food. That's why it's a good idea to heat canned goods before eating, especially if they've been stored for a long time. Heating the food to a temperature of at least 249 degrees Fahrenheit can kill botulism bacteria and make the food safe to eat. Lastly, always be aware of the can's expiration date. While canned goods can last a long time past their expiration date, that doesn't mean they'll last forever. If a can is several years past its expiration date, it might be safer to toss it out. And remember, these rules apply to all canned goods, regardless of whether they're high-acid or low-acid foods. Both types of canned goods can be susceptible to spoilage and bacterial growth if not stored properly, or if the can is damaged. So, when it comes to consuming older canned goods, always pay attention to the condition of the can, look for signs of spoilage, heat the food before eating, and be mindful of the expiration date. When in doubt, remember, safety first. Want to make your canned goods last as long as possible? Well, you're in the right place. Let's talk about storage. A cool, dark, dry place is ideal. Keep them off the floor and away from appliances that emit heat. A constant temperature of around 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit is perfect. And remember, humidity is a silent killer of canned goods, so keep that in check. Now, on to rotation strategies. It's a simple principle. First in, first out. Always use the oldest cans first. This keeps your inventory fresh and reduces the risk of consuming expired goods. You can even label your cans with the purchase date to make this easier. By maintaining proper storage conditions and employing smart rotation strategies, you can significantly extend the shelf life of your canned goods. It's about making the smart choices today that will serve you well in the future. With these tips, you can make the most of your canned goods. Now that you're a canned food expert, we want to hear from you. Has this information changed how you view your canned food stockpile? Do you have any tips or tricks that have helped you extend the shelf life of your canned goods? Maybe you have a story to share about that one can of peaches that was still good a decade after its best buy date. Your experiences and insights are invaluable, not just to us, but to the entire community. So go on, drop us a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to our channel. We're constantly releasing new content packed with practical advice to help you stay prepared. From food safety tips to survival strategies, we've got you covered. Until next time, stay safe and keep prepping.